Hey there, Trailblazers, I hope you guys are all doing well. So today in this video, I have even more new exciting pieces of information to share with you guys related to the new characters and changes coming to Honkai Star Rail in the upcoming updates. This includes rumors related to a potential playable XP for the popular Honkai Impact protagonist KIANA EXPY coming to the game in version 5X, some info related to Sparkle getting a new 5-star form along with a new character skin, details related to the major upcoming buffs for both Blade and Kafka, and also some new kit details related to Phanon. But before we begin, let me just give you guys a quick disclaimer that most of the information presented in this video is taken from various different sources and can be subject to change at any point in time. With that out of the way, let's begin without wasting any more of your time. Starting with the info related to the XP for KIANA EXPY. According to some information from a news source, who stated that he uncovered some internal information related to us eventually getting a potential playable version of the Honkai Impact protagonist KIANA EXPY in the form of a XP. While the source didn't provide any kind of gameplay details related to the character such as her potential in game element and path, as he states that the character is still in very early development. But he did, however, state that she could potentially release either near the beginning of version 5X or late 5X. While the fact that we're already getting a literal XP for none other than KIANA EXPY herself in Star Rail is pretty insane, not gonna lie. While I always believed that Hoya will eventually make a XP version of KIANA in Star Rail, similar to how they made a XP for Raiden Mei in the form of Acheron. But I honestly didn't expect they would do it this early in the game's life. And as a former Honkai Impact player that was a huge fan of KIANA's story and characterization in the game, a playable XP for her releasing in Star Rail will be an absolute must-pull for me, assuming the information provided by this source turns out to be accurate. Moving on, let's now go over the new info we got related to Sparkle, which is related to her not only getting a new 5-star form, but also an alternate skin for the new version of the character. So according to some new info from a very reliable source named HomDG who stated that he recently came across a speck of data related to the character, which is code named Hanabi. He then goes on to state that while Hanabi is just Sparkle's nickname, her actual code name is just Sparkle in the in-game files, which leads him to then suspect that these are actually files for an entirely new character and could be a potential new form for Sparkle that will appear in a future event. Later on, a new anonymous source comes out and states that he can confirm that what HomDG uncovered is indeed true. And he then states that not only are we getting a new special form for Sparkle in the future, but this new version of the character will also be getting an alternate skin on release. And this new skin is described to be similar in design to the character skin we got for the playable version of Sparkle in Honkai Impact 3rd. Assuming this info turns out to be accurate, the fact that Sparkle is not only getting a new 5-star version of herself in the future, but also accompanying character skin as well, is a pretty big win for all of the Sparkle enjoyers out there. Especially considering the character has not seen any real use since the release of very broken units like Sunday and Robin, who almost completely power crept the poor masked fool out of existence in almost every single team in the game. So, hopefully this new 5-star version will either give her a better version of her current kit or a completely new role that is actually sought after. And I also hope that the new skin releasing alongside Sparkle's new version has a cool design as well, as I really loved the design of her alternate skin for her playable version in Honkai Impact. Next up, let's now go over some very exciting news related to the new character buffs for both Blade and Kafka. Starting with Blade. According to some information from a very reliable source named Luna, who has a fairly decent track record of providing accurate info in the past, who provided 3 major changes that will be done to Blade's current kit in the upcoming beta. The first major change is that his kit will be shifted entirely to pure HP-based scaling, which is great news because while the majority of Blade's scaling came from HP, he also had some small amounts of attack scaling as well, which diluted his multipliers due to dual scaling. So, hopefully with the entirety of his kit now scaling off of HP along with potentially higher multipliers across the board, Blade will hopefully be able to compete with the current DPS units in the game. The next major change is that Blade's current taunt value will also be increased, which simply just means an increased chance for enemies to target him, This will result in a much higher frequency of gaining the special stacks required to trigger his talent's powerful follow-up attacks. And lastly, the follow-up attacks themselves will also be optimized, which could either mean that they will lower the stacks needed to trigger the attacks or even allow excess stacks to overflow, which basically just means excess charges gained after reaching the max count will be saved up and carried over towards the next attack rather than being wasted. Next are the buffs done to Kafka's kit. According to the same source that leaked the potential buffs for Blade, Kafka's follow-up attacks will now not only be able to detonate DOT effects inflicted on enemies, but will also now be able to be triggered by other types of attacks from teammates other than just basic attacks, which are actually two pretty amazing changes. Kafka's follow-up attacks now being able to be triggered by other teammate abilities means that you'll freely be able to use the rest of their abilities while still meeting the condition required for triggering the follow-ups, which not only means more frequent DOT application but also more frequent detonations, as her follow-ups will now also be able to detonate the DOTs. Additionally, there will also be various balancing changes to the whole kit, including numerical value changes to the kit multipliers, which would likely mean that Kafka's damage numbers will now be much higher compared to before, so that she'll actually be able to compete with the current DPS roster. Lastly, let's now go over the new kit details we got related to Phanon. So, according to some pieces of information from the same reliable source Luna, Phanon will actually be one of the most deeply intricate design characters contrary to the current speculation. He states that Phanon will enter a special form whenever he uses his ultimate. And upon entering this special form after using the ultimate, unlike all of the other characters in the game who only have a total of 2 button abilities, which are namely their basic attack and skill, Phanon will actually be the first character in HSR to have a total of 3 button abilities during this new form instead of just 2. While we don't exactly know what this additional 3rd button will do for now, but it is speculated by some fans that each button will represent all 3 attack types in the game, where the first button does a single target attack, the second does blast, and the third does AoE, which could actually make Phanon basically a premium version of the Destruction form for Trailblazer, who, as you all know, also has a similar system in choosing between attack types after using his ultimate. This could actually be pretty interesting since we haven't seen a similar character with this kind of playstyle other than Trailblazer until now, and could potentially make Phanon one of the most broken units in the entire game, as you'll effectively be able to do single target, blast, and AoE attacks all on a single character, which will also make him viable to use in all 3 of HSR's endgame modes. So that's pretty much all of the information that I have for this video. If you found the info in this video helpful, feel free to give it a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with all the latest HSR news and information. That's it for now, so I'll see you in the next video.